So today's an exciting day on a Thursday. I'm sorry I'm not here with you, but I'm really excited for you to get more practice with solving for missing angles in different angle relationships. So you had a chance to learn about vertical angles yesterday. You already know about complementary and supplementary angles, and now you're going to put all of that information that you know together again to practice solving for missing angles. So let's begin by getting out your packet, and please go ahead and find our warm-up for today, which is on page 11. So you're looking for page 11 in your packet that says problem 3.4, practice with all angle relationships. Go ahead and pause if you need to get that out. So now let's jump into your warm-up. So to take a few minutes, you can go ahead and pause the video and think about what should go into each one of these blanks based on what you know about angle relationships. So in correcting your warm-up, hopefully your guest teacher can go ahead and call on some people and maybe go through the answers first, and then we can just make sure you've got the right thing down. So complementary angles, you know lots about complementary angles, and in this case, I'm hoping you're recognizing right here, these two would be complementary angles. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees, and in this case, the complement of 30 degrees would be 60 degrees. Right? I can find the complement just by doing 90 minus the angle that I know to find that missing piece. Supplementary angles, I'm hoping you're thinking supplementary is like a straight line. So if I put my 30 degrees here with its supplement, the angle I'm looking for is this entire angle here. So I'm thinking 30 plus what would make 180 degrees. And so in this case, if I do 180 minus 30, I would find that my supplement is 150 degrees. And finally, vertical angles. You learned about these yesterday. Vertical angles are opposite from each other, and they have a really special relationship. They are congruent. So you could have also said equal, and in this case, the vertical angle to 30 degrees is just 30 degrees. So we're going to keep exploring these relationships and thinking about how to write equations with them. So now we're going to start writing equations to show how to find each missing angle in these diagrams that have numbers. So you'll notice that these diagrams have numbers for the angles instead of letters. So you'll also identify which relationship you use to solve the problem. So you have an example right here. Remember, m angle 2 means measure of angle 2, and it says 57 degrees. So we're going to think about how angle 1, the other angle, plus 57 degrees would make 180 degrees because I recognize that these are supplementary. And then I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the equation to 180 minus 57 to solve for that missing piece. So again, in this case, 123 degrees is the missing angle measure. And again, the relationship we used was supplementary angles because those two angles added up to 180 degrees. So take a few minutes and work through the remainder of the problems on that page, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then hopefully your guest teacher can pause you to kind of go through the answers here in just a moment. All right, so going through the answers for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I'm hoping with number 2 you recognize that these are vertical angles. In fact, it might be easier to notice the relationship first. And so that means those equations or those angles are going to be equal to each other. So in this case, angle 1 is going to be equal to 38 degrees. That's it. 38 degrees equals 38 degrees. So that one is solved. For number 3, the measure of angle 5 is 22 degrees. So I'm going to write angle 6, because that's missing, plus 22 equals 90, because these are complementary angles. So again, that relationship is complementary. They add up to 90. And now I can rewrite the equation. I'm going to do 90 minus 22 so I can solve for that missing piece. And when I do that, I'm going to find an answer of 68 degrees. So be really careful also with the subtraction. I know sometimes it's easy to think that that answer is 78. But again, always double check at the end. You can use a calculator on these problems, right? Make sure that you're being really precise with the numbers that you find. Now we're on to number 4. And number 4, I can see that these angles are also vertical angles. So I'm hoping you notice that the relationship is vertical. And if angle 1 is 65 degrees, well, that means angle 2 is as well. So angle 1 is equal to 65 degrees. Angle 2 is equal to 65 degrees. They are exactly the same, right? I could also write an equation like this: angle 1 equals angle 2, right? And so 65 equals 65. All those equations will work. And now we're moving on to number 5. So angle 2 is 67 degrees. So writing my equation, I'm going to notice that these are supplementary angles. I'll note that here at the bottom. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to write angle 1 plus 67 equals 180. Now I'll rewrite my equation to be 180 minus 67 equals 113. So make sure again that you really double check that answer, because it's easy to make simple calculation mistakes. And finally, for number 6, I'm hoping you recognize that this relationship right here is complementary. So these two are adding up to 90 degrees. Again, today it's really important that you're writing accurate equations as well. Remember that your standard is asking you to make sure that you can write and solve simple equations for missing angles. So like we said the other day, right, when you do these questions on your test, we're looking for both an equation as well as an answer. So in this case, I'm going to write angle 4 plus 38 equals 90. And rewriting it, 90 minus 38 equals 52 degrees. So that's it for 1 through 6. Now we're going to go ahead and flip to the back to number 7, which is a little bit trickier. All right, so with number 7, you'll notice that you have a diagram here, but the big difference is that now both of my angle measurements are represented with equations. And you've done a little bit of this already when we were working on triangle missing angle problems. So for example, here you're going to notice that the measure of angle 13 is 4x plus 11, and the measure of angle 14 is 3x plus 1. So now I have to set those equal, right, to that angle relationship, which I'm hoping you can recognize is supplementary. And so again, I'm going to need to also combine like terms. So 4x plus 3x makes 7x, and 11 plus 1 makes 12. And if you remember, right, we talked about how then I'm going to go ahead and take away the 12 from each side. Again, we're going to get a lot more into solving equations later, but this is just kind of a simple introduction. So then I have 7x equals 168, because remember I subtracted 12 from both sides. And now I can divide both sides by 7, and I get that x equals 24. But if you remember, you're solving for x now, you also have to find the angles. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug some things back in. So 4x plus 11 for angle 13, that means 4 times 24 plus 11. And so you can go ahead and solve that through here. So 4 times 24 is going to give me 96 plus 11, which will give me 107 degrees. And then the other one here, I have 3 times 24. So that'll give me 72 plus 11, which would give me 83 degrees. Now remember, the angle relationship, I believe, is supplementary. So that means my two angles should add up to 180 degrees. So I want to double check that as well. 107 plus 83 equals 190. Oops, that means I made a mistake somewhere. Can you figure out where the mistake is? Did you catch what I made a mistake on? Took me a minute to figure out where I went wrong too. Did you notice that I wrote the wrong equation right here? It should be plus 1, but I wrote plus 11. So really, instead of plus 11 here, I should have plus 1. And then 72 plus 1 becomes 73. So I'm going to go ahead and erase here. This becomes a 7. and then this becomes an 8. I'm sorry, an 8. So I hope some of you caught that and were able to figure it out, because that would have been a big mistake. So then does my answer seem reasonable? Yes. All right, so now if you haven't tried number 8 and even number 9, go ahead and try those. You can pause the video here and then we'll go through the answers when you're ready. So now looking at 8, I can see that these two angles also have a supplementary relationship. So as I set up my equation, I'm going to set those angles to equal 180 degrees. So x plus 10 plus 3x plus 18 equals 180. Remember, we're going to combine like terms. So I'm going to start by combining my x terms. So x plus 3x makes 4x. And then I have 10 plus 18, which gets me to 28. So 4x plus 28 equals 180. All right, so next we're going to subtract 28 from both sides. Remember, we talked about this as kind of like an algebra strategy. Lots more about this will be coming later. But for right now, you know that if I subtract something from both sides, I've kept the equation balanced. It still works. So now I've got 4x equals, right, 28 minus 28 just goes away to 0. 180 minus 28 becomes 152. So now I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to do 152 divided by 4 to get x. And so 152 divided by 4, right, 4 goes into 15 3 times. 4 goes into 32 8 times. So x equals 38. I know it seems like a lot of work, but now I've actually got to find the angles. So angle 1 equals x plus 10, so that's 38 plus 10, so 48. And angle 2 is 3x plus 18. So I have 3 times 38 plus 18. So I might even think to myself 3 times 40 would be 120. But I'm just doing 3 times 8, or 38, so that's going to be 6 less. So 3 times 38 will give me 112, right? So 3 times 38, I'm sorry, 3 times 8 gives me 24, right? 114. And then plus 18, I know this is a lot today, right? 4 plus 8 gives me 12, 132. Whew, a lot of work. So 132 for angle 2, 48 for angle 1. I think the relationship is supplementary, but I'm going to check and make sure they actually equal 180 degrees. So 132 plus 48, I'm at 180. Hooray. So my answer should seem reasonable then. And we're going to move on to the very last problem. You thought finding 2 angles was a lot, now find 3. So angles 4 and 5 to start. We're going to go ahead and look at setting our equation up. And so if you look at 4 and 5, I have complementary angles. I'm hoping you're recognizing those. So with complementary angles, I can also tell they're complementary, just in case you missed this, because these guys are vertical to the right angle. So again, this is 90 degrees. That means this here has to be 90 degrees. And so some of you might even be thinking, well, I can tell angle 3 right now is 90 degrees too. That's the only option, right? So angle 3, I might just notice over here, is 90 degrees, right? That's one of my angles done. So now angles 4 and 5. Not so sure about those yet. So I'm going to set up my equation. So 2x minus 5 plus 4x minus 13 equals 90. It's time to combine some like terms. So I have 2x plus 4x, which gives me 6x. And then this part here is a little bit tricky. I have negative 5 and negative 13. So if I think about negative 5 plus negative 13, the same as negative 5 minus 13, whichever one you prefer, I'm going to realize that that is negative 18. So I'm going to write 6x either plus negative 18 or minus 18. It's kind of up to you how you want to write it. I'm just going to write minus 18 equals 90. And now, just like we talked about previously, I'm going to add 18 to both sides because I want this part here to disappear and go away so I can just deal with the other part. So now I've got 6x equals 108. And now I can do 108 divided by 6 to get my answer. So 6 goes into 108 18 times. And so I have a value of x as 18. However, right, I still have more work to do, so I've actually got to plug that in still. So angle 4 is 2x minus 5. So that's 2 times 18 minus 5. And I'm just going to give myself a little more space here. So that means 2 times 18 is 36, minus 5 is 31. And then angle 5 is 4 times x minus 13. So that's 4 times 18 minus 13, which is 4 times 18 would give me 72, right? And then I've got minus 13. So if I just take away the 3 for a second, I know I'm at 69, minus 10 more, I'm at 59. So I got to double check my answers though. I think it's 59 and 31. I need them to add up to 90 degrees since they are complementary angles. So 31 plus 59 gives me 90. And again, I found that other angle is 90 degrees as well. So again, notice today you are practicing putting all those angle relationships together that you know. In the rest of the time that you have today, please work on the puzzles on page 13 and 14. You should choose one of those puzzles for homework. You don't need to do both unless you have the time, right? Remember that the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, and make sure you look back at your toolkit for any of the angle relationships you're uncertain about, because again, you should be able to solve all of those angle problems at this point. Tomorrow in class, we're going to work on the unit review and get ready for your test next week. I hope you have a great Thursday, and I look forward to seeing you soon.